One National Assembly member don burst out come give serious advice to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. E don tell Tinubu now say all this money wey dey borrow, say no be say you go dey borrow and dey chop o. Make you no dey borrow the money, dey share am among your cronies, dey put some for inside your pocket. He say no. He say if you try, say dem go knack am wetin no good. He say as e dey borrow this money, make e use dem take build infrastructures for Nigerians wey Nigerians go enjoy, so that even if they share the money for each Nigerian's head later, say Nigerians go know why they pay debt.
Member of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate. Thanks so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right, see you again. And you chair the Committee on Loans, isn't it?
No, I'm a member.
You're a member, right?
Of the
All right,
Local Foreign Loan Committee of the Senate.
You told me at that interview that you had a brief class with the president in his bedroom. And you said a lot of things as to how the economy can be handled. You also told me how Nigeria could approach the Exim banks, and you gave a list of some of the Exim banks. You said we can borrow. You said we should exit all our debt so that we can start on a clean slate. Now we are borrowing. You were attacked. Do you feel like you are a prophet right now?
Well, I'm not out to become a prophet, but facts are there. There is nothing you can do with knowledge. The truth is the truth. White is white. All I've said them on national television. We discussed about projects. And the president was very touched that 11,886 federal government mega projects are abandoned, not by the Tinubu administration, by the previous administration, combined with Obasanjo, Buhari, and so many of them, Jonathan and all that. I talked about that, but you said I'm crazy, so I left it. Now, we talk about borrowing. And I said at the beginning of this administration last year that we need to borrow money. And you people said, I'm stupid. What is the engagement now in governance? How much time of government is spent now on borrowing? Quite a lot. And at the IMF World Bank, we discussed this. My own contribution is this. What is Nigeria doing with 50% debt ratio to GDP? When in England, debt ratio to GDP is 95%. In America, is 123%. In China, 46%. You are a developing country. Tell me, what are you doing with GDP of 50%, debt ratio to GDP? To your what? Complete crazy. You need to borrow more money and borrow properly. Borrow large volume of money, exit your existing debt, and move on. Now, you want to borrow $2 billion. Is that money? $2 billion. When the Central Bank of Nigeria have launched Diaspora's Fund, and they are raking in $1 billion a month. So $1 billion a month, that's $12 billion a year. You are borrowing $2.5 billion, and that is news item in Nigeria. It can only be in Nigeria. These are the issues that you see. Economic variables are there. They must respond to economic development.
Senator, just a moment. Your room principle, it might be difficult to convince a lot of Nigerians your perspective or your direction in a policy direction of borrowing as a way out of infrastructure problem, a way out of economic quagmire. Because there are those who will remember easily, those who were around and are very much aware that during Obasanjo, Nigeria was carrying a lot of debt burden. Obasanjo pleaded for these debts to be written off, which were, and Nigeria has been careful in compounding its problem by acquiring more debt. But you are asking now that we should carry more debt, yet our backs can carry those burdens.
Okay, let me give you a simple example. Dubai. 12 million people, 3 million are indigent, $168 billion loan. Now, development is happening there. And now Dubai couldn't give Nigeria even visa. Is that not surprising? The oil is drying away fast in Dubai. Dubai goes to tourism, innovation and IT technology with AI. Now everybody wants to go to Dubai. Where does Dubai get the money from? Dubai got the money by borrowing $168 billion and use it for infrastructural development. in such a way that you can have the number of people going to Dubai today and the number of dollars that they go with is enormous. Dubai is paying back by $20 billion every other year. Now, if the lending market disappears, where are you going to get the money from? When President Tinubu came, he had such a very large global legitimacy that people are interested in giving him money. But I don't know whether that legitimacy is still as high as how it was before, but we could capitalize on that. Now the president is moving, traveling every other week to look for money. It's not an easy task. So the key issue is that if you borrow and develop your infrastructure, you are better off. Now you talk about President Obasanjo doing debt forgiveness and all that, subject to conditions and terms. Is debt forgiveness coming at 0%? No. There are things you do, you get debt forgiveness. There are international policies that you align with and you get debt forgiveness. So these are the issues at international politics. It's about power, authority, and influence. So if you can even get debt forgiveness for $12 billion, the more reason why you really have to borrow. So if you borrow $100 billion, then you tell the creditors that you are owing that, look, I want to pay you off. Our debt is $77 billion. So we can easily say, give me 20 billion debt forgiveness. I pay 50, full and final discharge. You have 50 billion. And then you can develop a lot of infrastructure. You can attack unemployment. You can look at food insecurity. You can look to hunger. You can defend your foreign exchange currency in time of the exchange rate of dollar to naira. But if you don't borrow, I've asked this simple question. Tell me where will you get income from? More importantly, that you have surplus assets. So if you are not going to borrow, what about are you going to print money?
Production cannot save us.
What are you going to use to produce? For example, you have a Jakarta who has spent $10 billion. We are on site for 42 years. This is 43 years in Jakarta. We haven't been able to produce one single iron.
So borrowing is the only way out for Nigeria.
There is nothing Nigeria can do, and I can bet you, with all my degrees, from good skills, I can bet with you, you go back to borrowing. Because there's nothing you can do.
Even prayers cannot help us.
What can God not do?
What God cannot do does not exist.
It doesn't exist. So if we pray, maybe we keep praying, but honestly, to be realistic, you need to borrow good money. Not all these $2 billion.
No, what in your own estimation is good money to be borrowed by this administration?
Anything above $50 billion. And you can raise bond. So if Mr. President decides to visit the US, I just came back for World Bank and IMF. So I know there is money there because interest rate is 1%. Now, so if you go to US and you lost the nation bond, right? And you say 10 years and at 10%, you get $100 billion. 100 companies, global companies investing $1 billion in Nigeria bond, and this money for 10 years. You get that money easily. A central bank, one institution, went to, we were told this in IMF or World Bank by the central bank governor. He went to launch a central bank bond, for diaspora in the United States. And every month he's taking $1 billion, just single-handed effort in the money market. Yeah. So the issue here is that if you have that, you say you are borrowing $2 billion. Central bank is able to get $1 billion from the bond, and their target is to get $1 billion every other month.
Senator Jimoh, don't take the $2 billion in isolation.
Yes.
That's not the only money that this government has borrowed.
Yes.
And don't forget that this money is coming to your committee, actually, and you will scrutinize it. Whether or not you will approve it is up to the National Assembly. But this is not the only money that this government has borrowed since it got into office. The question and the fear a lot of people have is, are we borrowing for the right reasons? This borrowing is going to be used to part finance the deficit of the 2024 budget. You are not even looking into the...
It is good for you to have a deficit budget where you have a surplus debt ratio to GDP. You should have a very big deficit budget. So a deficit budget helps, in economic development. Now, if this thing comes to our committee, I don't see anybody going to say is against it. For what reason? $2 billion for 250 million population with a GDP to debt ratio of 50% is a bad idea. You need to go to another country.
Give us an idea, because there are a lot, if looking at the figures, our international debt figures show that in January 2024, debt servicing cost is such that about 398.89% rising to $560.52 million from $112.35 million in January 2023. Well, and there is a slight decline of 1.84%, with payment reduction from $288.54 million in 2023 to $283.22 million in 2024. The big question is that you look at your FX, you look at your value of your naira, you look at your borrowing plan, you look at the projection of your agenda. Where do we start from? That's a big question. Not only borrowing for borrowing's sake. What are you borrowing to service?
Do you borrow to put in your bedroom?
There are government that
borrow money.
There are government that borrow to pay salaries.
Wait, do you borrow to put money in your bedroom? No, you are borrowing, for development. Even if you pay salary, and so what? That is going to make workers to be happy and be efficient in service delivery. And don't you know the quantum benefits of about $50 billion into the economy? Your naira against dollar will go down. So you have a good exchange rate because you have dollar there to defend your currency.
So borrowing will drop the
because you are bringing dollar in. You are not bringing naira.
For example, this $2 billion dollar if it's borrowed.
This is too insignificant.
So it will not
impact. Minute money.
So it will impact.
No, this is just launch money. What's the $2 billion?
Are you worried that the exchange rate that is on?
Wait, $2 billion to 250 million people to finance deficit budgets of a year that will end in 2024, ending in about less than 60 days. Good effort of government. If Nigeria will understand, we need to encourage the government to do more. So if you bring money, let's take this scenario of a small case study. You borrow to complete Ajakuta. How much money do you think we drop from naira pursuing dollar to import iron? Every building you build in this country, you need how much? 30% of the building is iron component. See iron everywhere. Now, this iron, what do you use to buy it? You change naira to dollar. Now, if you have your own Ajakuta completed and running, now 27 billion naira will be saved. So people go to Ajakuta to use naira to buy iron. They are not going to go to Central Bank to exchange naira to import iron. One good scenario. How many people will be employed? How many taxes you collect from that? How many VAT will come into the government? If you have 10 of church, can't you pay your $50 billion back? So let's don't look at debt ratio. You are using 90% to service. The money you are bringing is called capital injection. Now this capital, are you going to put it under your bedroom? You're going to use the capital to develop. Allow the Tinubu administration to open the economy up. Because the economy is converging with a lot of complexities that cannot be distilled to development easily. In fact, it hinders development. If you open up the economy a bit, and let me tell you, you cannot be an island in your own country. Nigeria is a member of the Global Economic Society. There is nothing you cannot be taking loan at 30% interest rate and you say don't borrow. So what will happen? Who can do business at 30% interest rate and make profit? What is the impact of that to Nigerians in time of the prices of the products that are produced from the source of 30% loan to interest rate to loan? And how will the bank perform? What about paying back 30% interest rate to loan? Will be difficult. So you do monetary policy like quantitative easing, printing money and all that. And if you do this, will you get a stabilized economy? If you bring $2 billion, it's different from printing $2 billion worth of naira with paper and ink. So you do not compare Nigeria debt portfolio to America. You know, I told my MBA student this very interesting joke. America doesn't owe any country. Today, America debt is about $45 trillion, but they don't owe no one. If you complain to America about the debt they are owing you, they simply go straight to the printer with ink and paper and print the dollar, put it inside the aircraft, and so I'll deliver to you the next day because the global economy is dollarized. Nigeria cannot print naira and sell it to America and say they have come to pay their debt. So don't let us compare this. The key issue here is that borrow sufficiently to the variables, to the independent variable that impact on the economy. Borrow for the purpose of employment, borrow for the purpose of security index, which is now very favorable. Everybody's talking about borrowing. Why don't you talk about the fact that we can't find the impact of Boko Haram anymore? Is the security index not improving? If we didn't appropriate in the Senate to Boko Haram and to appropriate to Nigeria Defense, you know, under Bolagbaja and the Army and the Navy, and those guys did a fantastic job. Now, do you see Boko Haram coming to Abuja as it was during the previous administration? Or do you see anybody today waking up to clear Odi or whatever you call it as a community? So, quality of human life is really appreciated, except the fact that maybe you talk about hunger.
Senator Abraham, just for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Borrowing in the past, and why Nigerians may be pessimistic, is the trust deficit in those who have handled those funds. Borrowed in this country, and those funds have landed in the pockets of individuals and enriching themselves and their families. How do you then think that Nigerians should then wake up one morning and think that the nation should be impoverished the more when some of this money goes into the pockets of individuals?
Let me help Nigeria in that regard because of future. I agree with you, and I'll come to that. But if you list 50 items to which you want to borrow 100 billion, and you bring it to National Assembly, we pass a law. Anyone who spends outside the item listed in this schedule shall face public execution. People will run away from stealing. Now, coming to your question, it is true, particularly the Buhari administration. Because if you look at current account balances before Buhari came in, that Jonathan handed over, was about $18 billion. But Buhari left it at a deficit of unknown numbers. So the Buhari administration was one good example of what you have cited, who left the economy in financial dangerous lane. Now we are back. The issue is that we cannot continue to share interminable inquests over the mistake of the past or borrowing money or not borrowing money. We need to concentrate. Now, what the president is doing. Now, I can tell you one thing that is very clear about Tinubu administration. I'm not a spokesman. He will not steal Nigeria money. Steal for what? He was governor for. He can never steal. I can sign for that.
How can you vouch for him?
I can vouch for 100%. Honestly speaking, because what's going to steal Nigeria money for? He was comfortable before he came in. Buhari wasn't comfortable when he came in. Was he comfortable?
Are you accusing Buhari of stealing Nigeria money?
Whether it's still Nigeria or this still Nigeria, he run Nigeria according to financial dangerous lane. Check the record in World Bank. In fact, Central Bank is refunding the sum of $22 million to IMF World Bank for money remitted, but they couldn't find the traces. EFCC should do their job, or whoever want to do their job. But the key issue here is that I am here to let you know that what I said that time, you started castigating me in this hall.
I was making inquiry.
Yeah, but today, it has come to be what is happening. And it will continuously become what will be happening unless you go back to that advice. List 50 items, borrow in accordance with the 50 items, and then use the loan to develop those 50 items, and anybody who will collect the money, external borrowing, and use it outside the 50 item should face public execution, and then the National Assembly will pass the law, and then we will have peace.
A proposed amendment is aimed at strengthening the framework for implementing the government social welfare programs, ensuring greater transparency and efficiency. In their correspondence, President Tinubu explained that the amendment seeks to designate the National Investment Register as a primary tool for targeting beneficiaries of social investment initiatives. This measure, he said, would ensure that welfare programs are data-driven and deliver effective social protection to Nigeria's most vulnerable citizens. Let's continue our conversation now with Senator Jimoh, who believes that food voucher is one way to bring food directly to the Nigerian people. But this proposition by the executive, by the president, in ensuring that data drives welfare packages for Nigeria, you think is the right way to go?
Yes, I actually have a bill in the Senate, which is a Federal Data Bank bill. I think it's at second reading now. We need data to do anything in this country. To succeed, you have to have data. There is nothing we can do without data. We need to know, for example, how many people benefited from your poverty programs. Then we want to know how many people are really in the nets, in the poverty nets. We don't have data enough. So we need to have data. And that's why in the Senate I proposed Federal Data Bank, where everybody will have data. We don't even know how many cases come before Federal High Court today to know how many judges we need to have, to do those cases, or whether the courts are even enough to administer those cases. So these are kind of things that data can help us do. So bringing in this type of bill that distill development into data acceleration becomes a pivotal edifice to quick development structure can be hung on. And we must commend the president for that, because the bill will pass through, because this is very important, because it's data enhancing. And this is significant and circumstance to the proposal I made at the World Bank, which world leaders are now looking at about hunger and food insecurity vis-a-vis voucher.
Again, one of the things, problems that are bedeviled these social welfare schemes and investment program of the government has also been the issue of trust and issues of corruption, and where people take monies that are meant for palliatives, holding them and stealing those monies.
That is why I suggested voucher for food. You know, and what do I mean by this? The central bank will print voucher, not print money. A minimum of 100,000 naira in a voucher per month to any 20 million Nigerians that are most vulnerable to poverty. Now, if you print this voucher, now it will help, you know, to reduce corruption. It will help money supply. You won't have too much money in circulation. What you have is paper, and you can scan this voucher in any commercial bank or buy it from food sellers. You know, you can use to buy your food, and the food seller can take it to the bank and discount it to money. So the cost of printing voucher is quite relatively low to the cost of printing money. And if you look at it this way, 100,000 naira every month, you do this program for 1 year, it enhances your legitimacy. And I have said that the source of funding this at the World Bank, I said that you can collapse all the palliative accounts, you know, into one single account. And I'm happy the central bank governor was there when I made this suggestion. And I asked him, you have many palliative accounts right in the central bank. Collapse to one account, print vouchers to 20 million vulnerable Nigerians, and that will help us solve poverty. Because we need to know, first of all, who are the 20 million Nigerians that are within the bracket. Number two, nobody will steal money here because cash is not involved. No one single individual can take more than one voucher, and you must be above 18 years old. Now, instead of giving 10 billion naira cash to a governor of a state who will say, I use this money to do derivation or whatever you say you have used it for build roads, which is meant to attract poverty alleviation. Now, you will give state governors 10 billion voucher awards, and no one can take more than 100,000 voucher. And this will help to reduce corruption. This will help to reduce money supply. Quantitative easing will really be reduced. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you again that interest rates will drop because there will be no need to charge 30% on loan. Because you're talking about 100,000 times 20 million people times 12 months. So you can have volume of money. Because now the government have started to give 50 million, 60,000, 50,000 to some Nigeria in form of palliative in cash. This cash, you have to print the money. Because that's quantitative easing. You have to print the money, and you print the money, it increases the money supply in the market. And then it causes inflation, it causes high degree of interest rate. But if you do voucher, like you rightly said about corruption, nobody will steal vouchers, nobody will collect another person's voucher. Voucher issue in January is different from voucher issue in February. You can do it like that and then mark them and make sure that even January voucher cannot be used in February.
Is there any place in the world this is being used?
This may be something close, but I'm working with international organizations on how to reduce hunger through voucher that I suggested at the World Bank IMF, which was widely received less than a month ago at the World Bank. And then now, you know, the world leaders are now talking about hunger and poverty reduction through the strategy of voucher. Because there is no way you can reduce hunger and poverty without voucher. And the challenge we have with the Tinubu administration is that the 20 million Nigerians within this bracket of poverty, they keep shouting, if you have done a very good role, say, no, we are feeling hungry. We are feeling hungry. So this can reduce legitimacy. But if you collapse all palliative accounts in the central bank, you have about 1.something trillion, and you can fund your voucher with that. And you don't need money for voucher for this next year, December now. You're only going to print for January now, print for February. So quarterly, you can see the voucher and it's transparent.
Have you pitched this idea to the president?
Why the president? Yes, I sent a note to the president. The president is working on it. It's not that it's something that you can do it overnight. The president has come with a bill talking about data. So once you solve the issue of data, we can feasibly see who is poor and who is not poor, who are the 20 million Nigeria that needed attention. It's that we don't have the money. Even if you borrow $2 billion to do this. And I said, lastly, that if you bring an application before World Bank and IMF asking for voucher for food, $3 billion, $4 billion loan, you probably get that response within 3 months maximum, and you get disbursement in less than 6 months. But if you're talking about infrastructure funding, then the IMF World Bank will be asking you a question. What about the 11,000 abandoned projects in your country? Are you borrowing new funds to do that? So strategically, if you really want the money to come on time, you come through the engagement of voucher for food to solve poverty. 20 million Nigeria in the net of poverty, you know, extreme net of poverty, we benefit that on a monthly basis. They have the voucher issue. And data is not difficult here because data present empirical evidence. You know clearly that we have wards, we have units, we have local government, we have state. So you can actually use even your voter's card to do this. The only thing is to know who is actually vulnerable.
You are one person that is deeply rooted. You have your feet and you have friends across the Bretton Woods institutions, which a lot of Nigerians are now worried about their impact on the policies of this government. For example, former President Obasanjo has described this government, or the country under this government, as a failing state. And the IMF has said some of the policies of this government are not working.
Yeah, let me respond to that. I'm not, more that I have a lot of respect to for Obasanjo. Everybody knows this. But I think language of war in peacetime is a disaster. And it's mutiny. You don't do that. Everybody knows developing countries are failed states. How do you describe developing country in international relations? Failed states.
If an elder statesman, a former president, is worried about the state of the country, don't you think that we need to be worried?
His interest is more than my interest. I employ over 4,000 Nigerians. His interest is more than my interest. Don't overflow issues. Baba himself knows that if Nigeria at this time is a failed state, then what we talk about Ghana? What is the debt ratio? In no parameter.
Is Nigeria working?
Nigeria is working.
Under this government?
Absolutely working.
IMF says no, that things are
Let me tell you, I've told you one thing in international relations. 3 things are very important if you are dealing with international politics. Power, authority, and influence. Nobody in the IMF group, let me be honest with you, I've been in IMF now for over 9 years. Is going to like Obasanjo, who like Tinubu for some of this reform that is pioneering. You think America will easily say, yes, good boy, I clap for you because you are removing subsidy and all sorts of things like that. You know, because you are running economic policy that's completely not dependent on this developed country. It's not being dictated by America and China and all that. So the Tinubu government knows from the beginning what kind of problem they're going to face by trying to be independent of their policy. Because the policy are not dictated from America or from China. So you know whoever borrow you money is the controller of your fiscal policy.
Yeah. So,
but this is not the situation.
So you disagree with President Obasanjo?
I disagree with President Obasanjo that Nigeria is a failed state. Number one. Number two, I disagree with President Obasanjo that is using language of war in peacetime. Why peacetime? We don't need this engagement of bullet interaction between elder statesman and government. I'm also an elder statesman till I have 2 national honors, officer of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, commander of the Order of Nigeria. You think that is small? I'm also an elder statesman by that.
So what would you have?
I'm a senator of the Federal Republic.
What do you think Obasanjo should have said?
Obasanjo should keep quiet.
Why not?
He doesn't, if he wants to say anything, he should look at the assessment of government in totality. Why is Obasanjo not talking about Boko Haram?
Why should Obasanjo keep quiet?
I'm telling you, if he's not keeping quiet,
you more Nigerian than Obasanjo.
I said one thing. I said Obasanjo should address in totality. Don't close your eyes to that. And I'm telling you that, look, why is Obasanjo not talking about assessing security, which is directly under his professional career? Why is Obasanjo not telling us that Boko Haram has reduced, security index is now positive under the Tinubu administration? Is it dollar to naira that is only yardstick to measure a government? performance. So to me, like I said, I also have PhD in war. Let me tell you, when you use language of war in peacetime, you are doing disservice to the nation. And you shouldn't do that.
And you're accusing him of
because mutiny. If you say that, the government will...
Is that not taking it too far when you accuse an Obasanjo of mutiny?
It's military. If you use language of war in peacetime, it's mutiny. It's not about Obasanjo. It's not about Buhari. It's not about anybody. But ask a military soldier, because I have a PhD in war. If you use language of war in peacetime, you are turning peace to insecurity. And that is not acceptable.
If you impoverish your people, is that not mutiny too, against the people? Well,
if you say people are impoverished by agenda of reform within the government, and the government is saying, I'm 1.5 years old, give me time. You cannot say a law student who has studied law for 2 years cannot defend the criminal in Supreme Court. Give time. Give time.
Thank you so much.
There's no point. You cannot shed interminable inquest over the mistake of the past. Some have lessons to teach for the future.
It's difficult.
Obasanjo is a fantastic leader, but at the same time, I want to say very clearly without apology, using language of war in peacetime is mutiny.
It's difficult to plead with someone who is hungry to be patient.
You understand? You know, be see they borrow money, they chop all this shocking up inside pocket. Remember, I said the other time when they share the money when Nigeria they owe for each Nigerian said it was around I think was it 640k or thereabout. Understand? But the recent borrowing when you want borrow now, if they want share and now if you borrow that money, they share now at least the money would increase. Make it not be like saying for Tinubu will come out for office if they share in debt when Nigeria they owe. Maybe what each of us for the country they paid 30 million, but this national assembly member now know they get problem with borrowing. But you they tell them say if they borrow, just not build infrastructures when Nigeria's government so that if they pay debt later, they pay now, so they see the reason why they pay debt. Do you understand?